Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, the White House warns Iran's Islamic regime all options are on the table to stop the slaughter in Iran as the U.S. is sending an armada on its way to the Middle East. That warning comes as the people of Iran and throughout the Middle East are waiting to see what action President Donald Trump will take. Iran has reportedly brought in foreign mercenaries to help crush uprisings because some of the Iranian forces are refusing to fire on their own people. We're going to bring you the story coming from the Middle East. After President Donald Trump removed Nicolas Maduro from power in Venezuela, a potentially important development in another Latin American country, Colombia. We're going to hear how the president got involved in that nation and a special way to help relieve children's fears when they go to the doctor's office or to the hospital, and it's being used for children's ministries as well. We're going to bring you a look at character farms, all those stories and more, right now on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Friday, the 16th of January. We want to begin this half hour with what could be next for Iran, as Iranians and the Middle East are waiting to see what action President Donald Trump will take in response to the rebellion against the Islamic regime. Chris Mitchell brings us the story. He's reporting from Jerusalem.
Even with reports of up to 30,000 killed, Iranian-born activist Dr. Amir Hamidi tells CBN News the uprising continues and springs from the heart of the Iranian people.
From Azerbaijan to Balochistan to Kurdistan to southern part of Iran, from Tehran to Tabriz to Mashhad, I hear one voice, and they want a regime change. They want a freedom. They want a normal life.
Hamidi says the regime has enlisted foreign mercenaries to break the rebellion.
They are growing allegations that Tehran is leaning on allied militia from Iraq, Hashd al-Sha'abis, and Fatimiyun and other proxy networks to intimidate and attack Iranians because some elements of its own forces hesitating, fracturing, and refusing to fire on their own people.
Are you actually saying, as you referred to, actually some of the military refusing to actually fire on the protesters?
That's what I'm hearing, because they are falling apart inside their military forces because they seen their own family in the street. They seen their friends and their neighbors on the streets. And then my understanding, some of them are hesitant to fire back on the people.
This Iranian woman, whose father is part of the regime, risked her life by calling in to a talk show. With a message that help is on the way, Iranians are looking for U.S. intervention. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Task Force is on the way to the region, but there are some reports Trump has decided not to intervene.
The truth is, only President Trump knows what he's going to do, and a very, very small team of advisors are read into his thinking on that.
U.S. Ambassador to the UN Michael Wall says the U.S. supports the Iranian people risking their lives for freedom.
Well, this is our message. President Donald J. Trump and the United States of America stands by the brave people of Iran. Period.
The delay so far by the U.S. is disappointing to Iranians, but some analysts say President Trump sent similar messages before attacking Iran's nuclear sites last June. He also needs time to put military assets in place. If the Iranian regime does fall, many believe it would be a game changer of historic proportions. Exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi explained on his Facebook page how Iran would be different.
In security and foreign policy, Iran's nuclear military program will end. Support for terrorist groups will cease immediately. A free Iran will work with regional and global partners to confront terrorism, organized crime, drug trafficking, and extremist Islamism. In diplomacy, relations with the United States will be normalized, and our friendship with America and her people will be restored.
restored relations with America would be a sea change from a regime that daily calls for death to the U.S.
And Chris Mitchell joins us now to continue our coverage. So, Chris, the White House says all options are on the table. What actions could the U.S. take to help bring down the Iranian regime? And are there concerns about the use of U.S. military force?
Well, Ephraim, here in Israel, there are concerns that the air defenses here in Israel might be overstretched right now, maybe not enough interceptors to combat against any Iranian ballistic missiles. And that's why there's been reports this week that Prime Minister Netanyahu actually asked President Trump to wait for a little bit. The concerns it could be a long military campaign, and that's why we hear that President Trump wants something decisive, a military strike that without an extended campaign. In terms of the reports about Trump backing down, Senator Lindsey Graham is saying they're beyond inaccurate, and he says, stay tuned. Senator Graham, by the way, says he's coming to the region because it's at such a crucial time in Middle East history. And in terms of what the U.S. can do there, and with all options on the table, there's so many tools in the toolbox of the United States. They demonstrated that just recently in Venezuela. They have cyber capabilities, covert operations. They could have massive bombing against regime targets, and also coordinated with operatives on the ground. We understand during that 12-day war, and Israel actually said that Mossad agents were on the ground. We certainly believe that there would be coordination between people that are boots on the ground, even as we speak.
What is the status of the internet right now in Iran?
Well, it's still down, and it has been down for days, Ephraim. This is really crucial. What this does is it keeps protesters from communicating one with another, from organizing and coordinating, and especially getting the truth out to the world. It's even hard to make phone calls to people that are inside Iran. Some of the people we've talked to haven't been in touch for days with their people. And so shutting down the internet is really 101 for the regime to shut down the rebellion. But many believe this time it won't be enough. The motivation of the people is too strong. The desire to overthrow the regime is too deep. And yet the regime is fighting back. We understand even now that the AP is reporting that an Islamic cleric is saying they are justified now to have the death penalty to these protesters.
What can you tell us about the use of drugs when it comes to the Iranian security forces?
Well, it's something that we've been hearing for the last several days. And what this drug is, in particular, is called Captagon. It's a synthetic stimulant. It was developed in the 1960s, but banned in the 1980s because of its use. It's illegally manufactured. We first heard about it when we were reporting about ISIS in Iraq and Syria. Now, what does Captagon do? It really brings extreme alertness and energy, and it reduces fear, pain, and any empathy, and it suppresses the appetite, and it brings heightened aggression and risk-taking. And so the side effects there could be paranoia, psychosis, and violent behavior. And that's why Captagon makes it especially attractive to combat settings. It's been used by ISIS, and it's been used before suicide bombings and prior to mass executions. And so that's why they use this. Hamas used it on October 7th. Hezbollah has been using it as well. And so Captagon now being used, and we believe by some of these militias that have been brought in by the regime, being used on the streets of Iran to sort of lessen the willingness for these mercenaries or IRGC troops to go and literally kill their own people.
We heard in your report that some Iranian forces may not be willing to fire on the protesters. How significant is this?
Well, it could be just a small crack in the wall, Ephraim. This lady was speaking out. She is the daughter of one of the regime leaders, and really that puts her life on the line. And this is why they're bringing in mercenaries from outside. Why the drug use? Because some of these troops really don't want to fire on their own people. So this could be a game changer. And, any time when people overthrow a tyranny, one of the major signs is when the military, actually starts siding with the protesters. And that's something that exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi has been asking for many days now.
As you've been sharing, Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, an exile Crown Prince, has been speaking out. How popular is he? Do Iranians want him back?
It really seems to be the choice both inside and outside of Iran. He's seen as a unifying force and actually harking back to prior 1979 revolution. He seems to be organically inside Iran. There's cries of Pahlavi will return, pictures all over. So a dramatic change. And we also understand that there's a poll recently that 92% of Iranians hate the regime. And you wonder, the question remains to be asked, can the regime ever recover from this?
All right, what do you have for us tonight on Jerusalem Dateline?
Well, updates about the latest, what's happening in Iran. We have an interview with Goldie Gamari. She's an Iranian activist. We talked to her about what's happening. We also have a story about Christian leaders here in Israel meeting with Israel's President Isaac Herzog. Christianity is the only place here in Israel where it's actually growing in the Middle East. And also a story, Ephraim, about CBN Israel helping a mother here in Israel who fled Ukraine and helping her out in her time of need. That's on today's Jerusalem Dateline.
Looking forward to that. Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, thanks as always for your insights. And for you at home, you can get the latest from Jerusalem Dateline at 8 Eastern. You can find it on the CBN News channel. You can also watch it on the CBN News app, and it's available on YouTube as well. A surprising development in the Latin American nation of Colombia after President Trump removed Nicolas Maduro from power in neighboring Venezuela. We're going to have that story for you when we come back. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. The political ground is still shifting across Latin America after the U.S. removed Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela. And people in that country are watching closely to see if there will be some real change. And in neighboring Colombia, tensions briefly flared after President Donald Trump publicly confronted Colombia's leftist president. As Chuck Holton reports now from Bogota, what could have been a diplomatic rupture turned into a surprise phone call and sudden reset.
In the weeks since Maduro's ouster, Venezuela has entered a transitional phase of promise along with deep uncertainty. U.S. diplomats are back in Caracas, sanctions are being reevaluated, and oil exports are moving again. For most in the country, though, these high-level developments feel distant. Daily life remains unstable, with few believing that removing one man means the system has changed.
I mean, as a matter of fact, we don't feel free yet. Do you understand? Because for someone to truly be free, the country needs to be stable, you know?
Every other time I've been to the bridge behind me between Colombia and Venezuela, it's been the scene of absolute chaos, mostly Venezuelans trying to flee their country and get across into Colombia. And I wondered if coming back this time, now that Maduro is gone, there'd be Venezuelans heading back home. But that's not really the case. As a matter of fact, there's probably more journalists on that bridge right now than there are Venezuelans. That's because the Venezuelans say, while they're very happy that Maduro is gone, the regime is still in place, and they're not going to go back home until they know that they can do so safely and not be under the thumb of what's left of the Maduro regime. As the future remains uncertain on the Venezuelan side, shockwaves are being felt across the region, especially here in Colombia. President Trump's hard line on regional security and narco-trafficking puts him on a collision course with President Gustavo Petro, who has accused Washington of interfering with Colombia's internal affairs. That tension has spilled into the streets, where Petro supporters voiced their anger, not just at U.S. policy, but at what they see as a threat to their sovereignty.
I come here with my wife and my baby to make the demonstration to defend the sovereignty of Colombia. In different countries, especially this one in Venezuela and also Panama and Mexico and Brazil, there's a lot of pressure from the U.S. against our governments. So this is a demonstration because yesterday and the day before, there were basically threats against our country and our president. So that's not very nice. We have our problems. Our country is not perfect. Yours has your problems. They're not perfect. But we just need to be making business, being respectful with each other, and that's it.
Just moments before taking the stage, President Petro received a phone call from President Trump. When he returned and stepped to the podium, he took a more subdued tone.
Today I planned to give one speech, but now I have to give another. This isn't very easy.
Since then, both governments have dialed back the rhetoric. Petro has accepted an invitation to visit the White House in February, and officials on both sides say future talks will focus on security, drug trafficking, and regional stability. For Venezuelans watching from the sidelines, diplomatic signals and economic headlines mean little without real change.
This is what we expected to happen. But why did they take him without taking all the rest?
Until stability, safety, and a functioning economy hopefully transpires, most Venezuelans say they'll keep waiting. For now, the border remains open, and hope remains fragile. From Bogota, Colombia, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Still ahead, going to the doctor's office or a hospital can be difficult for a child. Well, now there's a way to make it just a little bit easier, and it's being used for children's ministries as well. We're going to have that story for you. It's coming up right after this. Children across the country struggle with anxiety when the time comes to visit a doctor's office or a hospital. But two men are working to ease their fears by delivering creative distractions to comfort these young patients. They've created something special for them. It's called Character Farms. Take a look. From radiation rooms to hospitals to churches, Ernie Pacheco and Mark Sullivan are the masterminds behind these mural masterpieces. They're the founders of Character Farms. Where did Character Farms begin? What happened that made this vision come to life for the two of you?
I was asked to help a friend theme out a dental office, a pediatric office, and just as a favor. And so I did. And then an architect was there, the architect who did this, and he's pretty famous for pediatric offices and stuff. And he asked me, did I do this? And I said, yes, I did.
That conversation set things in motion. They began working with hospitals and dentist offices, and eventually churches.
The approach Mark and I have had with our clients that are hospitals or dentists or even kids ministries is we kind of, we like to think of our clients as like, we're partnering with them to help them. But that's helped us a lot because Mark and I talk all the time. We're not interested in fleecing somebody one time. It's like we want to go about it and help them.
After work in the medical field, churches took notice and wanted these themes in their children's ministries.
We've put a deck together for churches and children's nursery and ministries, children's, and it has a lot of content in there that's eye-opening.
What would you say is the impact in terms of what you're seeing and hearing about what this is doing to the children on the receiving end of this?
Right off the top, we've noticed that there is less anxiety with some of this stuff. Like I'm going to talk medical real quick here. One of the things that you go into some of these environments, they're very sterile and intimidating. So to speak. And, like there's 1,000 ways a kid could get hurt in this room. But maybe I kept thinking about that or something. But we think about what the kids are, try to keep them interested in the rooms.
It's what Character Farms is all about, making a difference.
This is a ministry to us. It really is, because we're seeing how it touches families and children, especially, but their parents as well.
And you can learn more about Character Farms by going to their website. It is characterfarms.com. We're right back with an encouraging word for your Friday and for your weekend. We'll be right back. Stay with us. It's time now for your Friday Faithful, and today I want to leave you with this thought. Make this Forgiveness Friday, and the first person you may want to forgive is yourself. Forgive yourself for not knowing the lessons only time could teach you. It's not too late. You had to learn the lesson, and the race you're running is your own. Forgive yourself. Stop looking back. You've learned the lesson. Now move forward in faith. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there anytime as well as online. Take a moment, let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. We'll see you back here come Monday. Goodbye and God bless.